What's going on, guys? I'm a regular guy with the Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Okay, so, of all the Ninja crap on this table, right, one of the most important is this guy. That's your charging handle. Now, Rainer Arms makes what they call a Raptor. Okay, they've marketed it out to a bunch of different companies. The one that I happened to get this one from was Stag Arms. They make good stuff. Now, as you can see, there's more than a few reps with this charging handle, and if you noticed or not, it depends really on whether or not you pay attention to the channel, you notice that this has been on more than one AR for a long time. Reason being, I'm testing it. So here it is. There's not much I can really say about a freaking charging handle, okay, but there are a few things that I keep in mind about a charging handle when I'm selecting one. The first and foremost is that, is it aggressive enough to use in all conditions, whether or not I'm hot or sweaty or really cold or filled with adrenaline or whatever. It's got to be aggressive enough to actually be used on a constant basis. The second one is that it also needs to be low profile enough to not snag on everything that I'm wearing. Whether I'm doing a transition and I don't want it to hang up on a belt, or I'm walking around with it and I don't want it to hang up on either load-bearing equipment or, way more than likely, in my case anyway, body armor of some kind, whether it be a plate carrier or an IOTV or something like that. So, that's the number two. And the number three is that, can it take the abuse that you're dishing out to it? Okay. Now, for the number one, yes. All day, every day, this thing is aggressive enough to be run. The teeth don't look as aggressive as they actually are, but the teeth are strategically placed to where they are large enough and wide enough to catch your hand on pretty much anything that you would touch on the charging handle itself. What's also nice, just as an added touch, and that a lot of ambidextrous charging handles don't do, is that the right side latch is a little bit larger than the left side. This is important for left-handed dudes because all of this junk on the upper receiver, meaning the casing deflector or the windage knob of a backup iron sight or mounting hardware to whatever optic it is that you're running, okay, your hands need to clear all that stuff. Now, I say this with a slight caveat in that if you're running a backup iron sight like a Midwest Industry or something that has a traditional windage turret, you will have to move it a little bit further forward because you will knock into it just a little bit. But that's not that big of a deal. Okay. So, all that being said, though, it definitely works. Okay. What is nice about it is that, yes, it is indeed low profile enough to not snag up on everything that I'm wearing. So that's great. And what this does really well that a lot of other charging handles do not is that the ends to the charging handle are rounded. Okay, so it just slips off of things a little bit easier. Now, as far as the durability thing is concerned, I'm going to say yes for the most part. And here's why I say that. Okay. I use a charging handle as a primary method to do everything on the gun. Load it, freaking lock the bolt to the rear, fix malfunctions. The charging handle is everything to me. Bolt release isn't as much. Okay, so this thing has been charged a million times. You can see it. You can see it on the lower receiver of this rifle too. Okay, it's just been charged a lot. Now, what I did start to notice is that these roll pins were actually starting to walk a little bit. Okay, and you can actually see that one of them wasn't punched in all the way. I just kind of beat on them with a Glock magazine until they went in. But they were a little bit further out. And what they were starting to do was wear a little bit on the lower receiver. Is that a big deal? No, not really. But what I do care about is the pin walking out enough to where it snaps off, and now I have problems. Okay. That being said, I had this charging handle for like the last 3 years, and it's been running friggin' great. Okay. this is literally the only issue I've ever had, and it was with the roll pins, and I punched these guys back in about 6 months ago. So, yes, it is absolutely worth it, because it took a long time to beat this thing to death. Okay, I have literally bent AR charging handles, simply because they weren't as tough, or the latches themselves were actually too large, because when you pull this way on it, what it does is that it torques on the upper receiver this way a little bit. Okay, so under a drill where I'd have to do something like charge the thing under some kind of stress or something like that, of the 10 billion freaking yanks on this thing, I have literally bent charging handles before. Okay, so this, in the last 3 years, has performed very, very well. And the really cool thing about it is that, like I said before, when you pull on one side, it forces it to the other side, correct? The wear is pretty even, for the most part. You can tell that a little more torque is on this right-hand side, but it's not drastic. So, just a couple of things to consider here. I get questions on Ambi charging handles and stuff a lot, and this is always the first charging handle that I recommend people to go to, because yes, there are a lot of people that make Ambi charging handles, but there are few that you can tell have been thought of by a lefty, and the Rainer Arms Raptor is just one of those charging handles that was thought of, as far as latch design and everything else, by a left-handed guy. So, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments box below. If you want to take the conversation further than that, go to the Facebook page. Please read our about before you join us. And if you have a question that you think might be a common one, go ahead and use the search function, and it'll bring up previous threads with that topic in it. But, as always, remember guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.